My husband brought his lover to my villa. So I brought her husband, and I ruined them. You probably wouldn't recognize me if you saw me on the street. Before all this, I was Chloe Davenport. My life was the kind you see in magazines. Literally. As an interior designer in New York, my work, my life, was curated, clean, and successful. I had the perfect husband, Mark, a finance prodigy, the guy everyone said was going places. We had the perfect Soho loft, the perfect friends, the perfect exhausting gala dinners. And I had my sanctuary, the villa in the Hamptons. It wasn't our house, it was my house. My grandmother left it to me. It was the only place on earth that felt completely safe, untouched. That's the place he chose to destroy everything. It started that morning. He kissed me, that quick, dry kiss he'd perfected, the kind that lands near your mouth but holds no warmth. He told me he needed the weekend. Alone. Just him and the villa. He had to de-stress, he said, before some massive, game-changing merger on Monday. He seemed off, jittery. His eyes wouldn't quite meet mine. I must have hesitated because he gave me that soft, condescending smile. He told me I was too tense and that I should just relax. That was his favorite word for me. Relax. It was the word he used right before he wanted me to feel guilty for questioning him. I never imagined distress was just a code name for another woman. I never imagined the merger was a code name for him emptying our accounts. He thought I was just the wife, the decorator. He forgot what I'm really good at. Seeing the details no one else does. And I saw every single ugly detail. This whole story. It's a lot. And it's the first time I'm telling it all. I'm going to need someone to see this through with me. If you want to hear how it all went down, you might want to follow along here. That's the only way you'll be sure to catch the next part. I spent the rest of Friday trying to shake it off. That feeling. You know the one? That tiny, cold pebble that drops in your stomach and just sits there. He called it tense. I called it intuition. Mark was always so good at making me feel like my feelings were the problem, like my instincts were just me being difficult. And I, like an idiot, had spent years learning to apologize for them. You're right. I'm just stressed from the museum project. You're right. I'm just tired. Have a good weekend, honey. Call me. I didn't hear from him Friday night. Not a text, not a made-it-safe call, nothing. He always called. He was obsessed with appearances, and a good husband always calls. By Saturday morning, that cold pebble felt like a block of ice. I kept staring at the phone, telling myself not to be that wife, the needy one, the suspicious one. Then I had an idea. I'd just bought a new car. A surprise for myself, really, and it was sitting in the garage. Mark didn't even know about it yet. I thought, I'll surprise him. I'll drive up to the Hamptons. I'll bring that expensive single malt scotch he loves. We'll laugh about how tense I was, and he'll be grateful, and this whole sick feeling will just dissolve. I'll prove my own intuition wrong. The drive out was strange. The car was perfect, handling the curves of the parkway beautifully, but with every mile, the knot in my gut tightened. The closer I got to the salt air, the less I felt like I was bringing a surprise, and the more I felt like I was walking into one. When I turned onto the long gravel driveway of the villa, I saw it. It wasn't Mark's car. His Range Rover was there, parked near the garage, but pulled up right near the front steps, arrogant, was a silver Mercedes convertible. Top down. I didn't recognize it, and I know every car in our circle. My heart started doing that stupid, frantic thing. It's fine, Chloe. It's a client. It's a colleague for the merger. Don't be crazy. I parked my own car further down, hidden by the big hydrangeas. I don't even know why I did that. It was instinctive. Don't be seen. Not yet. I walked up the stone path. The front door was unlocked. The house was quiet. Too quiet. But there was a smell. It was perfume. Heavy. The kind of expensive, musky scent that screams, "Look at me." It wasn't my perfume. I'm a minimalist. I wear citrus. I walked through the living room. Everything was perfect, just as I'd designed it. Cool blues, soft whites, but on the patio. Through the big glass doors, I saw the pool. There was a bottle of champagne on the table. Veuve Clicquot. Not the small batch grower's champagne I always stocked. This was basic. And next to it, 2 glasses, both with smudges of pink lipstick on the rim. My breath just stopped. I could feel the cold tile under my feet. I could hear the buzz of a dragonfly near the pool filter. Everything was suddenly in hyperfocus. 2 glasses, pink lipstick, and then I heard it. Laughter. Not from the master bedroom upstairs. No, it was coming from the guest suite. The one at the end of the hall, the one I just had soundproofed for my mother to use. My body moved before my brain did. I didn't storm in. I didn't yell. I just glided down the hallway like a ghost in my own house. I stopped right outside the door. I could hear the murmur of voices. His voice, low, and her laugh again, high-pitched and fake. I leaned my head against the cool plaster wall, and I didn't know if I was going to be sick or if I was going to scream. But I did neither. Instead, I pulled out my phone. My hand was shaking so hard I could barely type the passcode. A year ago, we had a small break-in. Just some kids, but it scared me. I had a tiny, discreet security camera installed in the corner of the guest suite's living area, just in case. I'd never even turned it on. I opened the app. The guest suite feed was offline. My heart sank. Wait, no, it was just loading. The little buffering circle spun, and then the image resolved, and the world ended. He was there, Mark, and it wasn't just any woman, it was Sasha Petrova. Sasha. A woman I'd smiled at over canapes at charity balls. A woman married to Dmitry Petrova, an investor so ruthless he made Mark look like a choir boy. I watched them. I watched my husband, with her, in my house. The truth hit me like a physical blow, knocking all the air from my lungs. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I just stood in the hallway, watching my life implode on a 5-inch screen. I don't know how long I stood there. Seconds? Minutes? It felt like a lifetime. The shock was so total, so paralyzing. And then, as I was watching this betrayal, my phone vibrated in my hand. It vibrated so hard it almost slipped. A new notification popped up at the top of my screen. It wasn't a text. It was an alert from my bank. JP Morgan Chase. Large fund transfer initiated. A wire transfer of $100 from your joint account to an offshore holding has been requested. Please confirm. He wasn't just cheating. He was robbing me. The merger, it was all a lie. He was draining me dry. And that was when the shock shattered. It shattered into a million pieces of pure, cold, diamond-hard rage. He didn't just break my heart. He tried to break me. The tears. They came. But they weren't the hot, messy tears of heartbreak I would have expected. They were cold, silent. 2 perfect, angry tears that rolled down my cheeks and dripped onto my phone screen. I wiped them away. Not now. I looked at the bank alert. $100, $100. Just a test, I guessed. The first probe to see if the defenses were down. The merger was him merging my money with his escape plan. I looked at the camera feed. Sasha was laughing, tossing her hair back. Mark? Mark looked smug. He looked like a man who thought he'd won. That's when it clicked. This wasn't a soap opera. This was a heist, and he was treating me like the dumb, unsuspecting victim. I backed away from the guest room door, silently. My shoes made no sound on the hardwood floors I'd handpicked. I didn't go to the front door. I went to the study. Mark hated the study. He always said the villa was quaint, but ancient. He especially hated the old-fashioned, heavy mahogany desk that had been my grandmother's. He said the drawers stuck and the whole thing smelled like old money. He preferred sleek glass and steel. He would never, ever think to look in there. I closed the study door, the brass handle cold in my hand. I didn't turn on the light. The afternoon sun was enough. I went to the desk. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady. He was right. The drawers did stick. I pulled on the bottom left one. It groaned in protest. I had to brace my foot against the leg and yank. It gave way with a wooden thud. I ran my fingers along the inside, the back, the top. Nothing. I tried the next one. Nothing. I was being stupid. He wouldn't leave a paper trail. Not Mark. He was too smart, too digital. I stood up, frustrated. I looked at the bank alert again. Offshore holding. This was planned. This was... I looked back at the desk. The bottom drawer I'd pulled out. It hadn't gone all the way back in. It was slightly crooked. I knelt down. And I saw it. It wasn't in the drawer. It was under it. Taped to the very bottom of the desk's frame, hidden in the shadows of the knee hole, was a thin black moleskin notebook. My heart didn't race. It just stopped, and then started again, with a low, heavy beat. I pulled it free. The tape left a sticky residue on my fingers. This wasn't his. Mark didn't use notebooks. He used a tablet for everything. I opened it. It wasn't a diary. It wasn't a journal. It was a ledger, page after page of tiny, neat handwriting. But it wasn't Mark's handwriting. It was precise, almost feminine. Dates, account numbers, routing information, little notes, finalized transfer BZ'd, confirm Cayman, and then names. I saw my name, Chloe Davenport. Next to it, a number that made me feel sick. It was the entire balance of my personal inheritance account, the one he wasn't supposed to be able to touch. I flipped the page, and I saw another name. Petrova, D. My blood ran cold. D. Petrova. Not S. Petrova. Not Sasha. Dmitri, this wasn't just an affair. This wasn't just my money. He and Sasha, they weren't just partners in bed. They were partners in crime. They were planning to drain both me and her husband. I stood there, in the quiet study, holding the proof. This little black book, he wasn't just a cheater. He wasn't just a thief. He was a fool. A greedy, arrogant, suicidal fool. He was stealing from Dmitri Petrova, a man who, I'd heard, didn't have lawyers solve his problems. He had fixers. And I realized I wasn't the victim in this story. I was the only one who knew the whole truth. And this little black book, this was the weapon. I took out my phone, I turned off the camera feed. I opened my camera, and I started taking pictures. Page after page after page. I photographed every single page. My hand was so steady it almost scared me. Click, turn, click, turn. Each photo was a nail in his coffin. The ledger was meticulous. It wasn't just numbers. It was a plan, a timeline. It started 3 months ago. Initial transfer, SP Seed Fund. Sasha, she'd funded this, probably with Dimitri's money. I saw notes about me. C, at design conference. 3 days. Initiate act sweep. C mother's visit, high stress, good cover for market volatility. He'd been using my life, my work, my family as milestones for his theft. The sickness rose in my throat, hot and acidic. I'd been complaining to him about my stress with the museum project, and he'd been using it. He'd been nodding, rubbing my shoulders, telling me it would all be okay, all while planning to empty my accounts. And then, the Dmitri pages. They were different. The handwriting was the same, but the tone was greedier. DP off-grid, fishing trip, test wire, S confirms DP bonus lands Q3. Sasha wasn't just his lover, she was his inside woman. She was feeding him intel on her own husband. But the final page, that's what stopped my breathing. It was a summary. 2 columns. Assets, C, and assets, DP. Under my name was my inheritance, our joint savings, the equity in the Soho loft. The total was horrifying. It was everything I had, under Dimitri's name. The number was 10 times larger. It was a sum that didn't just buy villas, it bought islands. It bought silence. And at the very bottom, a single terrifying note. Final transfer. Wipe all. Havana 72 HARs. Today was Saturday. 72 hours meant Monday. The merger was the deadline. He wasn't just stealing. He and Sasha were planning to take everything from both of us and disappear. Havana. Of course, somewhere with no extradition. I stared at that word. Havana. I thought I knew Mark. I thought he was just a garden variety, entitled Wall Street guy, an ambitious, slightly insecure man who liked a pretty wife and a fast car. I was wrong. The man I married wasn't real. This This cold, calculating stranger who would steal from me, I could almost understand. People are greedy. But to steal from Dmitri Petrova, that wasn't just greed. That was insane. It was a level of arrogance I couldn't comprehend. Dmitri wasn't just rich. He was powerful, the kind of power that doesn't use courts. Mark and Sasha weren't just playing with fire, they were bathing in gasoline and looking for a match. I slid the notebook back under the drawer. I taped it. I pushed the drawer shut, wincing at the thud. I stood up. The whole room felt like it was tilting. For a second, all I wanted to do was run. Just get in my car, drive away, and let this whole thing collapse. Let Dmitri handle it. Let Mark and Sasha burn. But my name was in that book. My accounts, my inheritance. He'd tied me to it. If this went bad, if Dmitri found out before I could do anything, I wouldn't just be the wronged wife. I'd be an accomplice. My money was already tangled with theirs, and the $100,000 transfer. He was using our joint account to move the money. My God, he was using me as the mule. The sadness hit me then. The grief. Not for the man, but for the life. For the lie, the sheer, staggering, comprehensive lie I'd been living in. The loft, the dinners, the kisses. All of it was a stage, and I was the only person who didn't know it was a play. I walked out of the study and stood in the hallway. I could hear them again. A murmur, his voice, the sadness. It didn't last. It burned off, like fog under a desert sun. And what was left was Sharp. He didn't just think I was stupid. He thought I was weak. He thought I was just the creative one, the tense one, the wife who managed the house and smiled at the parties. He had no idea who I was. He had no idea what my grandmother, the woman who left me this house, had taught me. You don't get mad. You get smart. He'd built a bomb, he'd set a timer, and he'd put my name on it. I wasn't going to run. I was going to defuse it. And I was going to hand him the pieces. I walked out of my house, my villa. It didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like a crime scene. I didn't run. I walked step by step back down the stone path past the silver Mercedes and got into my car, the one he didn't even know I owned. I started the engine. It was so quiet. I just pulled away. I didn't look back. I drove for a mile, maybe 2. I didn't know where I was going. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles were white. I pulled over at a small, deserted beach overlook. The ocean was gray and choppy. It matched everything I was feeling inside. I sat there, the engine humming, and I looked at my phone. The bank alert was still on the screen. The photos of the ledger were in my camera roll. He was still in that guest room. With her. Probably celebrating, thinking they'd pulled it off. Thinking I was 200 miles away in the city, picking out paint swatches, being the good wife. I had to play the part. One last time. My heart was a cold, hard stone in my chest. I took a deep breath, held it, and let it out. I had to know. I had to hear his voice. I had to see just how deep this went. I pulled up his contact. Mark. I pressed call. It rang once, twice. I imagined his phone buzzing on the nightstand in that guest room. I imagined him looking at my name, annoyed at the interruption. He picked up. Chloe. His voice was off, strained. He was trying to sound normal, but he sounded breathless, annoyed. Hey, I said. I was amazed at my own voice. It sounded normal, a little tired, a little tense, just like he expected. Hey, sorry to bother you. I know you're trying to de-stress. I'm busy, Chloe, right in the middle of something. Can I call you back? Busy. The word hung in the air, so vile, so disgusting. I could hear a faint sound in the background, like music. No, wait, Mark, I'm kind of worried. I let a little panic seep into my voice. I was an interior designer. I knew how to stage a room. It was time to stage a scene. Worried? What now? It's the bank, I said. I just got a crazy alert. It said there's a wire transfer for $100 going to, I don't know, some offshore account. It looks... Mark, it looks weird. It's not the merger, is it? Did we get hacked? There was a silence, a long, heavy pause. I heard him muffle the phone, his voice distant. Just a second, S. Just a second. It's just work. He'd almost said her name. He came back on the line, his voice suddenly sharp, impatient. God, Chloe, that's what you're calling me about? Mark, it's $100,000. It's the merger, he snapped. It's the escrow test. I told you this was complex. It's the Petrova deal. It's incredibly sensitive. Now, I need you to just approve it. The alert is just a stupid flag. If you don't approve it, the whole thing could fall apart. Do you understand? You're going to blow up my entire career over a bank alert. I just sat there. The ocean waves crashed outside. The Petrova deal. He didn't just lie. He used the name of the man he was robbing as his alibi. He was so arrogant, so confident in my stupidity, that he just handed it to me. He thought he was using Dimitri's name to shut me up, to make the deal sound too big and scary for me to question. He didn't know he'd just confirmed everything in that black notebook. He didn't know he'd just given me the exact link I needed. He'd just tied his fraud, the transfer, directly to the Petrova name with his own words. Chloe, did you hear me? He said, his voice dripping with impatience. Just handle it. I took a slow, steady breath. Oh, I said. The Petrova deal. Okay, wow, that's big. Yes, it is. Now I have to go. Okay, I said, my voice sweet and small. I'll handle it right now, honey. Sorry to bother you. Fine. Talk to you later. He hung up. I sat in the silence of the car for a long time. I looked at the gray water. He didn't just give me a lie. He gave me a key. He gave me the one piece of evidence I didn't have. He thought he'd hung up on his tense wife. He had no idea. He'd just hung up on the woman who was about to burn his entire world to the ground. I sat there in that beach overlook parking lot for exactly 10 minutes. The engine was just a low hum. My past was in that house, and my future. My future was a blank, terrifying page. He'd said the Petrova deal. He'd said, handle it. Okay, I was going to handle it. I needed not a friend, not someone to cry with. I needed a surgeon. I called Sarah. Sarah isn't just a divorce lawyer. She's the divorce lawyer. The one who handles the billion-dollar breakups in Manhattan. The one who knows where every single offshore account is buried before the husband even opens it. She's my best friend, but our friendship is forged in fire. She's the most ruthless person I know, and I love her for it. She picked up on the second ring. Chloe, you're not on my schedule. I know, I'm in the Hamptons. Sarah, it's bad. I didn't cry. I just gave her the facts. The villa, the Mercedes, the camera, Sasha Petrova, the black notebook, the $100 Zonderdollars alert. My phone call with Mark. His words, the Petrova deal. There was a long silence on her end. Not a, oh honey, I'm so sorry silence. It was a processing data silence. Where are you right now? She asked. A beach overlook, Route 27. I'm not in the house. Good. Don't go back. My East Hampton office is 10 minutes from there. You know the one. I'm not there, but my assistant Maria is. I'm calling her now. She's going to let you into the back conference room. Don't talk to anyone. Just go there. And Chloe? Yeah? Email me, now, encrypted. The photos of that ledger, everything. Okay. And Chloe? Yeah? Don't. Approve. That? Transfer. I hung up and drove. Sarah's office was discreet, tucked in a small shingled building that looked like a therapist's office. Maria met me at the back door, her face a perfect neutral mask. She just nodded and led me to a room that smelled like lemon and old-growth wood. She brought me a bottle of water I didn't drink. I sat at the end of a 10-foot-long mahogany table and waited. I emailed Sarah the photos, and then I stared at the wood grain. My phone rang. It was Sarah. Okay, she said, her voice all business. I've seen the ledger. You're right. This is a heist, but you're wrong about what kind. What do you mean? They're stealing. Chloe, stop. You're thinking like a wife. Think like a bank. Mark isn't the mastermind here. He's the... what's the word? The patsy. I just stared at the wall. What? Sasha Petrova. Sarah's voice was sharp, cutting. I know her. Or, I know of her. I almost handled her divorce 2 years ago. She's tried to leave Dimitri 3 times. But her prenup. Chloe, her prenup is a work of art. It's not just ironclad, it's titanium. If she cheats, she gets nothing. If she leaves, she gets nothing. He owns everything. She's a prisoner in a G-Wagon. She doesn't just want his money, she wants to burn him. She wants revenge. It hit me. The pretty, laughing socialite on the camera feed. She's using Mark, I whispered. She's using Mark, Sarah confirmed. He's the arrogant Wall Street prodigy who thinks he's smart enough to steal from Dimitri Petrova. He thinks this is his plan. He thinks he's getting the money and the girl. But Sasha, she's just using Mark's access. Your access, your joint accounts as the pipeline. She gets the money and he takes the fall. Havana, 72 Ahars. That's not a couple's getaway, honey. That's her exit plan. I guarantee you she has a second flight booked from there, and Mark isn't on it. The betrayal. It just deepened. It was a bottomless black pit. He'd been played. He'd blown up our lives, my inheritance, my safety, because another woman had flattered his ego. So what do? My voice was small. Call the police? The FBI? Sarah laughed, a short, harsh bark. The FBI. By the time they get a warrant, Sasha and your money will be in another hemisphere. And Dimitri's men will be visiting Mark. And you, whose name is all over the accounts he used, will be collateral damage. No, you can't go to the police. Then what, Sarah? What do? You're not dealing with a cheater, Chloe. You're dealing with a cornered, venomous snake, and you can't outrun a snake. You have to call a bigger snake. My heart pounded. Dimitri, she said. He's the only one who can move fast enough. He's the only one who can freeze accounts in the Caymans with a single phone call. He's the only one who can handle Mark and Sasha before that 72-hour window closes. I don't know how to reach him. I do, Sarah said. I got his private cell during the Crenshaw divorce. He owed me a favor. He'll pick up. But you have to be smart. He'll think you're just another hysterical, scorned wife. You have one shot to prove you're not. My hand was cold on the table. What do I say? You don't say anything. You send something. You have the ledger. You have the bank alert. And Mark. Mark gave you the final piece. I was confused. What? His alibi, Sarah said. The Petrova deal. You're not just calling him about his wife. You're calling him about his money. That's the only language men like him understand. You're not a victim, Chloe. You're a whistleblower. You're an investor. I stood up. I walked to the window. The trees outside were still. I finally understood. I wasn't saving my marriage. I wasn't even saving my money. I was saving myself. Send me the number, Sarah. I already did. Check your encrypted mail. Good luck, Chloe. And burn them to the ground. I opened my phone. There it was. A string of digits. The most dangerous phone number in New York. My thumb hovered over the message icon. My thumb hovered over that number. Dimitri Petrova. This wasn't just calling an angry husband. This was like calling a sleeping bear. A bear who, according to Sarah, owned half of Manhattan. Sarah was right. I couldn't just call. I couldn't sound like a scorned wife. Men like him and Mark, they dismiss hysteria. They feed on it. It's what makes them feel powerful. No, I had to be an associate, an angry one. I needed one more thing. I had the ledger. I had the bank alert. But I needed to nail Mark, in his own words, in writing, to the Petrova deal. His phone call was one thing, but text is forever. I pulled up my message thread with Mark. My hands were freezing, but my mind was a furnace. I typed, Mark, I am so sorry. I tried to handle it. The bank is blocking the transfer. They said it's too large for a verbal okay. They need written authorization from you to attach to the file. Just text me back. Authorize the $100K Petrova deal transfer, and I can forward it to the bank rep. She's waiting. Please. She said it's urgent. I hit send. The little blue bubble showed delivered. I waited. 1 minute, 2. I imagined him in my guest room, annoyed at this. This inconvenience. This appeared. He was typing. My phone chimed. God, Chloe, fine. Just authorize the 100K Petrova deal transfer. Stop bothering me. I'm in a meeting. A meeting. I took a screenshot. My heart. It was a cold, hard machine. I had it. I had him. Now, Dimitri. I opened a new message. I typed in the number Sarah had sent. No, hello. No, I'm sorry to bother you. Mr. Petrova, my name is Chloe Davenport. Your wife is at my Hamptons villa with my husband, Mark. They are in the process of liquidating your assets and mine. They plan to be in Havana in 72 hours. I attached 3 things. The photo from the ledger showing the assets, DP on column, and the Havana note. The screenshot of the $100 million bank alert. The screenshot of Mark's text. Just authorize the 100K Petrova deal transfer. I read the message one more time. It was cold. It was factual. It was undeniable. I hit send. The silence in that conference room was absolute. I could hear my own pulse in my ears. The little blue bubble. It just said delivered. It didn't say read. I waited. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5. Nothing. Did he get it? Was it the wrong number? Was he just ignoring it? My phone suddenly vibrated on the mahogany table so hard it made a buzzing sound. It was an incoming call from that number. I stared at it. This is it, Chloe. This is the moment. I swiped accept. I didn't say anything. There was just breathing on the other end. And then, a voice. It was low, heavy, and wrapped in an accent so thick it was like gravel. Ms. Davenport. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. My voice came out steady. Mr. Petrova, you are sure of this? I'm looking at the bank alert now, and my husband is still in my guest room. He called it the Petrova deal himself. Another silence. I heard a muffled sound, like him snapping his fingers. He was giving an order to someone in the room with him. Where? He said, his voice dropping even lower. Is your villa? I gave him the address. They are. Still there? Now? As of 30 minutes ago? I said. They believe I'm in Manhattan. I am 20 minutes away, he said. My blood turned to ice. 20 minutes? He wasn't in the city. He was. He was already out here. What do I do? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. You, he said, will go to the entrance of your driveway. You will wait for me. You will not go inside. You will not call your husband. You will do nothing. Do you understand me? Yes, I said. He hung up. The confrontation. It wasn't a plan for Monday. It wasn't a strategy meeting with lawyers tomorrow. It was now. It was happening in 20 minutes. I stood up. I walked out of the conference room, past Maria, who just looked up, startled. I didn't say goodbye. I got in my car. I put it in drive. I wasn't just going to wait at the entrance. He didn't know me. This was my house. This was my name. This was my money he was using as a getaway car. I wasn't going to be a damsel in distress, waiting by the gates for the big bad man to come save me. No, I was the one who'd built the bomb. I was the one who'd handed him the trigger. I was going to be in the room when it went off. I drove back to the villa. The world outside the windshield seemed muffled. The colors of the hydrangeas lining the road were too bright. The salt air coming through the vent felt too sharp. It was like all my senses had been cranked up to a painful new level. Dimitri had said, "Wait at the entrance." He was used to giving orders. He was used to people obeying, but he didn't know me. He thought he was coming to his showdown. He didn't realize he was a guest at mine. This was my house, my grandmother's house, the place he'd brought her, the place he'd sat, laughing, while he plotted to drain my life's work and my inheritance. I wasn't going to wait at the gates. I wasn't going to be a spectator. I was the one who had found the ledger. I was the one who had set this in motion. I deserved to see the look on his face. I didn't park in the driveway. I pulled onto the grass, way back, behind the old gardener's shed, hidden by the row of overgrown pine trees. The same way I'd hidden my car before. My movements were automatic. Turn off the engine. Silence. The silver Mercedes was still there, gleaming, arrogant. I sat in the car for a moment. I looked at the house. It was just quiet. The guest room curtains were drawn. I thought about them. Mark and Sasha. And that's when it hit me. The real weakness. Sarah had called Mark a patsy. And she was right. But it was more than that. Their entire plan was built on a lie they were telling each other. Mark. My God, Mark was just arrogant. He wasn't smart. He was just entitled. He'd lived his whole life failing upwards, and he thought this was just another merger he could win. He genuinely believed he was smarter than Dmitry Petrova. He actually thought he was in charge. And Sasha, she knew better. She was terrified of Dmitry. That's why the plan was so desperate. Havana, 72 hours. That wasn't a plan. That was a panic. She wasn't motivated by greed. She was motivated by pure animal fear of her husband. They weren't a team. They were two different kinds of predators chained together who were just waiting for the signal to turn on each other. Mark thought Sasha was his partner. Sasha thought Mark was her escape vehicle. The moment real pressure was applied, the moment Dmitry's shadow fell across that threshold, their alliance would evaporate. Sasha would trade Mark for a single, softer word from her husband and Mark. Mark would just stand there, confused, trying to bluster his way out, still believing he was the smartest man in the room. They were a bomb, and I had just lit the fuse. And now, I was walking up to watch them try to defuse it. I got out of the car. The pine needles were soft under my feet. I didn't have a weapon. I didn't have a speech. I just had the truth. I walked across the lawn. I went to the back door, the one that led to the kitchen, the one that always stuck. I put my key in the lock. It made a small, metallic click. I turned the knob. I stepped inside. I was in the kitchen. I could hear nothing. The silence of the house was deafening. And then I heard it. The sound of a heavy, powerful car engine turning onto the gravel driveway. Dmitry was here. My heart wasn't racing. It was still. I stood by the kitchen island, a block of imported marble I'd picked out myself. I was perfectly calm. It was time to redecorate. I stood in my kitchen by the marble island and I listened. The sound wasn't a car. It was a motorcade. Heavy. The crunch of gravel under tires that cost more than my first car. A door opened. A heavy, solid, expensive thud. Then another. And another. He wasn't alone. A shadow passed the kitchen window. Then another. I didn't move. My heart was a stone. And then, the sound. Not a knock. A boom. Someone was hitting the solid oak front door with their fist. Boom. It wasn't a request to enter. It was a warning that the door was about to come off its hinges. Boom. I heard it. From the guest suite. A crash. Something falling. The door. Their door. Flew open. I heard Mark's voice. Annoyed. Panicked. What the hell? Who is that? Did you call someone? I heard her voice. High-pitched. Terrified. Me? I didn't. Mark, who is that? I walked out of the kitchen. I turned the corner into the main hall. And there they were. They had just stumbled out of the guest room. Mark was in my white bathrobe. Sasha was in one of his dress shirts. Her hair was a mess. His hair was a mess. They stopped dead. They weren't looking at the door. They were looking at me. Mark. His face. It was a picture. It went from annoyed to confused to a pale, clammy, sickening white. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. Shh. Chloe? He stammered. What? What are you? You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be here. Sasha just stared. She didn't know who I was. Not really. Just another woman. Boom. The knock came again. Harder. Mark's eyes darted from me to the door. Back to me. The hamster wheel in his brain was spinning, trying to catch up. Chloe, who is that? What did you do? I just looked at him. I gave him a small, cold smile. I told him, "You should probably get that, Mark. It sounds important." He started to say something. To yell. But the door, it just opened. He hadn't locked it. He was so arrogant. In my house, he hadn't even locked the door. Dmitry Petrova stepped inside. He wasn't a large man, but he filled the space. He sucked all the air out of the room. He was wearing a perfectly tailored black suit. Behind him, 2 other men. Same suit. Same. Stillness. They didn't look like lawyers. Sasha. She made a sound. I'll never forget it. A small, high-pitched whimper, like an animal. She instinctively took a step behind Mark. Mark just stood there, robe half open, his mouth hanging slack. Dmitri, Mr. Petrova, What a surprise. Dmitri's eyes, they didn't even look at Mark. They passed over him like he was furniture. His gaze landed on Sasha, and her face. It just crumpled. The terror was absolute. He still hadn't looked at me. He just looked at his wife. And Mark. Stupid, arrogant, panicked Mark. He tried to bluster. He tried to take charge. Dmitri, I know this looks irregular, but Sasha and we were just discussing the Petrova deal. He actually said it. He said it, out loud, in front of the man he was robbing, Dmitri's head. It turned, slowly. It was the first time he acknowledged Mark's existence. The what? It wasn't a question. It was a sentence. And Sasha just broke. She saw her opening. She lunged forward, grabbing Dmitri's arm, dropping to her knees. Dimi, please, it's not what it looks like. He made me. He's been blackmailing me. She was pointing at Mark. The team was over. Mark's face. I almost laughed. It was. Baffled. What? Blackmail? Sasha, what? What are you talking about? He said he'd ruin me, she wailed, tears streaming. He said he had pictures. He forced me. He said if I didn't help him, he'd tell you. It was a performance. A truly desperate, pathetic performance. Dmitri just looked down at her, his face like stone. And Mark. Mark was still trying to throw her under the bus. She's lying. Dmitri, she's unstable. She came to me. She's the one who wanted. They were. It was ugly. 2 rats in a trap, trying to eat each other to get out. And I'd had enough. He's right. They all stopped. The wailing, the stammering, they all turned. Even Dmitri. He finally looked at me. I just nodded. I told him, Mark's right. She's been lying to him. But then, he's been lying to her too. Mark's eyes. Chloe, stop. Don't make this worse. I ignored him. I walked past them all. Past the men in suits, past the sobbing wife, past my husband. I walked into the study. I went to the desk. I pulled the bottom drawer. I reached under. I tore the black moleskin notebook from the tape. I walked back out. The room was silent. I held up the book. You've both been so busy. I looked at Mark. I told him, You really thought this was your plan, didn't you? You really thought... Havana. His face, the blood just drained. I looked at Sasha. And you. You just needed a patsy. Someone to take the fall. Someone. Expendable. I opened the book. I didn't hand it to Dmitri. I walked to him. I held it open. To the last page. The 2 columns. Assets, C. Assets, DP. Mark wasn't just stealing from me, Mr. Petrova, I said, my voice clear, cold, and loud. He was stealing from you, but the handwriting... It isn't his. I pointed to Sasha. It's hers. Dmitri looked at the ledger. He looked at Mark. He looked at Sasha. He didn't yell. He didn't rage. He just nodded. Not at me. He nodded. At his 2 men and the men. They turned, and they both looked. At Mark. And the silence. The silence in that room was the loudest thing I've ever heard. Mark just stood there. He was looking at the 2 men. His mouth was opening and closing, but no sound was coming out. He looked small, pathetic. He was still wearing my bathrobe. He looked at me. Not Dmitri. Me. Chloe, he whispered. Chloe, stop this. Tell them. Tell them it's a mistake, a misunderstanding. He still thought I was his wife. He still thought I was his. That after all this I would, what, fix this for him? Lie for him? I just looked at him. I didn't say a word. I just let him see my eyes. Let him see that the Chloe he thought he knew was gone. Dmitri didn't even look at him. He just looked at Sasha, who was still a sobbing heap on the floor. Get up, he said. His voice was quiet, but it cut through her wailing. She flinched and looked up, her face a mess of tears and smeared mascara. Get up. She scrambled to her feet. She was shaking, holding the front of Mark's shirt closed. Dimi, please, I can explain. It was him. Silence, Dmitri said. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. He just turned to one of his men, the one he'd called Alexei. Take her to the car. She will go to her mother's. She will take nothing. Dimi, no, she shrieked. My clothes, my things. You have no things, Dmitri said. You have my name, and as of tonight, you are not worthy of it. Alexei just stepped forward, took her arms, and she was gone. He just guided her out of my house, out of my life. And then there was just Mark. Dmitri finally turned his full attention to him. Mark? He physically recoiled. You, Dmitri said, stepping closer. You are a very stupid man. He gestured to the ledger, which I was still holding. You stole from me with her. He paused, then looked at me just for a second. And you stole from her. He looked back at Mark. The first is a problem. The second is an insult. Dmitri looked at his other man, Boris. Call Mr. Jensen at the bank, he said. Tell him the Petrova deal is fraudulent. Tell him I have the names of the conspirators, Mark Davenport and Sasha Petrova. He will freeze everything. And then you will call the SEC, the FBI. Tell them I have a gift. Mark's face, the color it didn't drain. It imploded. He wasn't going to be disappeared. He wasn't going to be beaten. He was going to be audited. Dmitri wasn't going to break his legs. He was going to break his life, his career, his reputation. He was going to use the very system Mark thought he'd mastered to absolutely crush him. The merger, it was now the central exhibit in a federal fraud case. It was perfect. Dmitri looked at me one last time. It was a long, strange, appraising look. He nodded. You did well, Ms. Davenport. He didn't smile. Men like him don't smile. Your money will be returned. My lawyers will contact yours. He turned, and he just walked out. His men followed. They didn't touch Mark. They didn't have to. He was irrelevant. They just left him. Left him standing in my hallway, in my bathrobe, with his entire world reduced to ashes. The silence that fell. It was different. It was clean. Mark. He just sank. He just folded. He sat down, hard, right on the floor. He looked. Old. I walked past him. I went to the front door, the one Dmitri had left open. I just stood there. I looked out at the dark driveway. The silver Mercedes was still there. Get out, Mark, I said. I didn't yell. He didn't even look up. He just got up, like a robot. He walked past me. He didn't say a word. He got into his Range Rover, and he drove away. 3 days later, he was indicted. Wire fraud, conspiracy. Sasha, I heard she was seen on a bus, heading back to her parents in some town in Ohio. Her name wasn't in the society pages anymore. I sold the loft. I sold the villa. I didn't need them. They weren't safe. They were just things. My grandmother had left me the house, but she'd given me her strength. That's what I kept. For a long time, I thought. My marriage, my success, that was my life. I was wrong. It was a beautiful, perfect cage. And Mark hadn't just broken my heart. He'd accidentally handed me the key. The real merger, it wasn't his. It was mine. It was me, merging with the woman I was always supposed to be. Strong, unafraid, free. This story, it was hard to tell. It was the last ghost in the house, but I'm glad I did. It feels done. It's a big world out there. And I wonder, where are you listening to this from? It feels good to, finally, not be alone in a quiet room. Go ahead and let me know in the comments. What city are you in? It's nice to know you're out there. And if you want to hear more stories, stories about surviving, well, you should stick around. Make sure you're subscribed, because I'm just getting started.